Okay, so today we're going to talk about everything listings, everything about the new forms that EXP has to offer. And I want you to share a little bit, Michelle, about your listing agreement, listing presentation that you went on today using some of the new forms or the new lingo. How did it go?
It was, I'm not gonna lie, the last 2 days, I've been in so many training just to prepare for today because of the new laws. So what I found today to talk about was factual stuff. Uh, like, now is we do it this way, but as of August 17th, it changes for everybody. And these are the reasons why. And we talked in depth about the compensation, how, things are working and how it's going. And at first he was like, well, don't want to pay seller compensation, to the buyer's agent. And I said, well, I reminded him there's a house for sale in the neighborhood that was offering zero compensation. And I said, this could be to your advantage. And then he started thinking about it. And I said, look, let's look at it this way. You've purchased a home before, correct? And with a buyer, as a buyer, you have so many costs. I said, wasn't it nice that you didn't have to worry about paying, out also to, your agent to cover? It wasn't nice that the seller covered that. And I left it like that. And he's like, yeah, you're right.
Uh,
So we got it signed. It was a lot to go over because there's a lot to do with all the changes and to remember. And I just basically took a step back and just talked, like I said, factual terms. This is how it used to be, and this is how it's going to be now. And touched base on how it is going to be for our buyer's agent now. They, just like you and I have a listing agreement, I'm working for you. They're making it fair now for the buyer's agent. And we're just going to receive, let's just get an offer and go through it because everything's negotiable.
Perfect. Perfect. And you have a signed listing agreement. And
And
when is this going on the market?
not till September 11th, but could be sooner because there's some things to
Fine.
do.
Okay, that's reasonable. That's not too crazy far off. So good. Congratulations. How long was your listing appointment? Yeah.
Well, because there was the air conditioning guy fixing the air conditioning, he had to go back and forth. I was there 2 hours.
Oh, that's still actually
And
not that
I
bad.
know, and I felt like it was pretty good. But what was
Did it
nice
feel like
is
four?
was nice is because the RLA is now like the RPA, just meat and potatoes in the front.
Mhm.
We had already discussed a lot of the things because he had a lot of questions. So by the time we got to the contract, look, we already went over this. Sign, sign, sign.
Great. Okay, so then you use the new updated CAR form. Okay, perfect. Did
Yes.
you use any? I don't think you would have needed to use any of the EXP forms then. Is that right? No.
That not yet, I believe until we start doing the disclosures and stuff like that, then I'll send at that time. But I made sure at the appointment because this is a trust. He brought me copies of the trust, um, and all the information and then the HOA docs. So I tried to make sure I was very prepared for him and I on both terms so I don't keep asking for things.
Perfect. Okay. You did great. I'm so proud of you. Good job. I know it was a little challenging at first and you weren't
A lot of
entirely
talking, a lot of talking.
good. Good. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll see if anybody else jumps in. But what I'm going to do is I do want to share my screen because I do want to go over, oh, where did all my stuff go? I do want to go over things. Get that out of the way. Okay, so this is a slideshow that I received as an employee. Hopefully this is not bad information to share, but I thought it would be helpful for you all to see this because we all know August 17th is the looming date. However, there are a lot of changes that are happening already across the nation, across the states, through our associations, different associations throughout California have already started implementing things. EXP does have forms that are available such as the exclusive authorization and right to sell for the listing agreement, the amendment to the listing agreement if somebody already has their home, a client's home listed, the buyer broker agreement, single property buyer broker agreement, direct compensation from seller, disclosure and acknowledgement of non-representation, and then there are state-specific addenda or agency disclosures and election forms that are coming, and you alluded to that with disclosures. So I just wanted to kind of jump into some of these. What I wanted to share were some things like this: state and local association listing agreements. So what is not okay is broker to broker compensation language. We can't say that. We can't say seller pays the listing broker 5,000 and then commission split 2,500 listing side, 2,500 buying side. We can't do that. What we have to say now is the broker commissions are not set by law and are fully negotiable. Things to look for, item 21 in the listing agreement, the EXP version. This is verbiage that somebody can put into that additional terms and conditions section. And then listing agreements. So what if, right? What if scenarios, hang on, we'll come back to that. Buyer agreements, what to look for. Broker commissions are not set by law and fully negotiable, exactly what you said to the client. Buyer broker agreements, what you can't do is leave it open-ended. You can't put a range in there. You can't put a range for a percentage. You cannot put a range for dollar amount. You can't say up to, you can't do anything like that. It has to be very specific, whether it's 3.5%, 4%, or a flat fee, or if you have a range, the only way you can do it would be like this bottom section here. 3% for resale, as an example, 4% for new construction, as an example, or $500 for properties that are under $50,000, as an example. So you can have your own pricing points for how you want to do business. You just have to make it very clear. So that way they are very clear on what to expect as a buyer, especially if they have to pay. So paying buyers purchase agreements, paying buyers brokers. So the buyer pays the buyer broker, or the seller pays the buyer's broker. Seller can concede to buyer for anything, and then the buyer can pay the broker. Okay, so those are different ways to get paid. I'm just going to kind of scoot through here. Okay, so I think that was it that I wanted to share on that. This is the single property buyer broker representation agreement. So this one here is from EXP. CAR might have one, but now agents can use anything CAR, and they can use anything that EXP creates. CAR, because you're an agent of EXP, you're probably going to be in a better situation if you use the EXP documents. If something goes sideways, and you're an agent at EXP, it'll be easier to represent you from the EXPOI regulatory side of things, the attorney side of things. If something goes sideways and you use the EXP documents, it's very clear. If you use CAR documents and there's some ambiguity of, gray area, not clear to the client, not clear to you as an agent, that's where the trouble can happen. So you want to be very clear with the documents that you're using, that you understand what you're using and how you're explaining it to your client. So with that, the single property buyer broker representation agreement, this document was made by EXP, and these documents, EXP has been putting it out there. Anybody can use these documents. Any agent from any other company can use these documents. If it helps them with their clients, they can totally use these documents. It's fine. EXP doesn't care because they're writing these out for the good of the industry, not hoarding it as an EXP only document. So I think that's wonderful that they're doing that. And this is when let's say you have leads that you purchased, or you are a Zillow agent, as an example, and you have a lead and a client wants you to go open up a house for them. Fabulous, great. Go out there or have the conversation with them. If you can meet with them prior to entering the home at a coffee shop or somewhere and have the conversation about this. If you have to meet them at the property site, have the conversation about this document before you open up that door. In fact, you cannot open up that door if you don't have the conversation with them about this document. This property, it's the new way we're doing things now. I can open the door, but only once we first go through this document. It's, property 123 Banana Street, and the length of this agreement is for, 24 hours. And why do I say 24 hours? Because if I show you this house and you happen to love it and you want to write an offer, by me opening the door and showing you this property 24 hours, you decide you want to write an offer on it, then I am, I'm now authorized to be able to receive some form of fee, and here's my fee, and this is how I work. And you can talk about what the broker fee is. It's not set by law. The broker EXP doesn't put an amount on the cost that you are putting out there. You determine your cost, and your cost is either a percentage of whatever that property, Banana Street, is valued at. If it's an $800,000 property, you might say that as an example, your commission is 3% or 3.5% or 4% on, representing any buyer that you show that home to. Or it could be a flat fee, however you want. And the buyer is expected to pay that, and they can pay that either out of pocket with their costs at closing, or they can wrap it into the loan. If they are deciding to finance a property, they'll have to have a conversation with their lender to ensure that's a possibility, but let them know that you are first going to see if the seller would be willing to pay your services on behalf of the buyer for bringing an offer to the property. So you can, however you want to explain it, express it to your buyer, you can, as long as it's within the legal framework that is allowable. So you want to show this. If it's just for one house, you have them fill this out for one house. If you have a good rapport with that person and they decide they want to work with you further, then that's when you would bring in either the BRBC form that CAR has, or the broker agreement form that EXP has. So you can do that. This is just a one-page document. So fill this out. And I would say, if you happen to be representing an agent for, let's say I have a listing and I have an open house, and Michelle, you're going to do an open house for me. Well, I don't need these because I'm representing the seller at the open house, but you would for anybody that comes through that doesn't have their agent with them or isn't represented. You would want to have this document in case, this is a really good reason now to get people to sign in, because they can't really look at the house until you have this signed. And the only good thing is, it means nothing to somebody if they just want to peek at the house. Great. Then I have no problem getting rid of this form at the end of the day. But should you decide you sleep on it and overnight you want to write an offer on this property, I am the one here showing it to you. And for that, and for being represented, I will, this is what my fee is. So you can, however you want to massage that and make it sound like you can do that. So that's another reason to have these forms handy and available.
And I just learned yesterday in training, I did a CAR training yesterday. January 1st, 2025, it is officially required by law.
Good to know. Thank you. Okay, January 1st, next year. Okay, so we only have months that we have to use this. So remember, and everybody should get used to these now, because remember COVID, we all had to sign papers and nobody could walk into that house without signing something and being tested or wearing the mask. So if anything, COVID has given us a good primer for being prepared for on-the-spot paperwork for people walking through an open house. So good, I'm glad. Good.
I do have a question though. Maybe you can answer this, or maybe I don't know. So say they have these buyer broker and obviously the fee. What advantage as a listing agent when you're talking to the buyer's agent, should you tell them right away that that your seller's offering concessions, or is that a disadvantage for the selling agent? Because what if the buyer is willing to pay their agent? That
I
makes
don't
sense?
know. I don't know that I would openly share that information. I think I would wait until well, if you're representing the seller, that's not a good fiduciary for the seller unless the seller is saying, let everybody know, shout it from the mountaintops that I'm willing to, then there's a way you can share that with the agent that's with
Yeah.
the
For the
client.
agent, right?
Yeah, I don't think I would say that to a client
No, no,
necessarily.
no, to the agent. If you're having a conversation agent to agent on the phone, so they call you, hey, I see you have this property listed. Is your seller offering concessions? Or I'm sorry, the
They're
shop.
open, they're open to an offer and they're open to negotiate any concessions or anything of that nature. Please put it in writing, put it in an offer.
So you wouldn't say the percent.
Not unless my seller verbally told me I could tell them a certain percent.
Okay, so let's wait to see, even though I know what he wants to offer and that's it, nothing higher,
Mhm.
just wait to see when the offers come in and then we can go from there.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
because even if he's willing to only do 1% as an example, and somebody comes in with a crazy over the top offer, he might be willing, and they're asking for 2.5%, he might be willing to say okay to that. If
Mhm.
it's in writing, things are different when things are in writing. It's anybody could say anything they want all day
Sure.
long, but
Yes.
unless it's in black and white, just like how when we have here, when we have listings and we hear agents are going to write, oh, that's great, that's exciting, but it means nothing if no one does.
Yeah. Got
So
it.
I would use that same theory with that.
Yeah. But let them know, send us an offer. We'll go
Mhm.
from there. Everything's negotiable.
Yes, everything's negotiable. That's what I would definitely, yeah, those are going to be the magic words. Everything's negotiable, like, just like with anything, it doesn't hurt to ask.
Yeah.
Ask for what you want, ask for what you think you're worth, ask for whatever your client wants. Doesn't hurt to ask at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Uh-huh, definitely. Okay, so then, hope did I get rid of two of them? No, I didn't. I don't think so. So the amendment to the real estate listing agreement. So this is the one that if you have a listing now, so I have a listing right now, had the rule came down honestly today that said, oh, I don't know if I have it here. You might receive it in your email, you might receive it on your text. Some of the brokers received it on their text on their phone saying alert, immediate update. Did you get it?
I got it.
You did. Okay,
Yeah.
read what it says.
Alert listing agents, modify existing listing agreements immediately if entered into prior to July 24th and if property remains unsold. Use CAR form DM-LA or use the new July 2024 version of the RLA to comply with the required practice change.
Yes.
Contact your broker team if you have any questions or need assistance.
Okay, so that is awesome. And that came down the pike this morning. That is for this. All the agents now have to, if you don't have your listing pending, so if mine on Clubhouse was not pending, I would immediately need to send this over to my sellers today. Absolutely no ifs, ands, or buts. Would have to be out there today, get signed, and then put it back into SkySlope, letting them know I got it. But I am pending, so and that was before today's date, so that I don't need to worry about this. But this is amending what's in the MLS because it's basically saying, oh, MLS shows X%. They're removing that and anything related to commissions or compensation to agents. So this is letting the sellers know it's now being removed out of the MLS. And here's exactly what compensation you are paying me, and or underneath down here, the unrepresented section, if I'm going to represent any other buyer who's not represented, then it would be either a flat fee or a certain percent. And then they sign, everybody's happy. This is in compliance with the laws, etc. Okay. Now, this is what it actually, so this right here that I'm showing you is in, and I want to get one of these for that other document that I just had, but this is an example of the EXP listing agreement. And I absolutely love this because it's only 4 pages. That's it. 4 pages. So property, 1524 Mulberry Street, Santa Clarita, Los Angeles, California. Here is the APN, right? Or the lot description, tax ID, parcel, etc. And length of agreement is however long. This is where it could be longer than 90 days. This is where you can have a 6-month listing or a year. It just cannot be more than 2 years for a listing, right? And then your listing price, as an example, $835,000. My fee for listing this property and representing the seller is 3%. If I'm representing the seller and an unrepresented buyer, then the total is going to be 6%. That's where that other 3 would have gone on the old RLA, if you remember. So this is where that difference is there. And then if a buyer comes through and for whatever reason we cancel or withdraw this listing agreement, if one of those buyers, and I'm going to keep track of all the buyers that go through the property, if one of them comes in within 60 days and purchases the property, I'm still due my commission. And you can do 60 days. I typically do 90 days. And you do have to be very diligent with who does come through that property if they're not represented. So having those lists, having the sign-in sheets when you do your open houses is very important to keep track of who those names are. So that way you can give that list of names to the seller. And then seller concessions, if there are any, right? You're going to talk about that. And you're going to talk about where you can promote the property. It's going to be on EXP exclusives, Zenlist. It'll be on the multiple listing service. Should you still want to be a member of the MLS and provide that information, it'll be through the regular yard sign. It'll be through video, photos, etc. The broker is or is not authorized to disclose the existence of offers, including sales price and or terms and conditions of sale to third parties. This is very clear now. So if there's multiple offers, a lot of times the agent who brings in the offer first, if they do it on a Monday and they're not reviewing offers until Friday, it's very likely that that first offer is going to get shopped up until Friday. That's why a lot of agents wait until Friday to dump all the offers in on the agent. Right here, it's very clear. They're either authorized or not to disclose information. So if you're a seller, you want to have the conversation with them. Do you want me to share information on any of it? The price, the terms. It used to be we never could even talk about terms. So this part's new. I never would talk terms. Price, sure, the sellers are okay with that because they want to try and get the highest offer typically. So now it's very clear. They say yes or no to some or all of it, then you need to abide by what they want because you're representing them. And then does the seller authorize or not the installation of a lockbox or key safe or, combo box or anything like that? They either do or they don't, just like before, but now it's very simple, very clear. And then it outlines your broker services, the commitment from the seller to you, and then fixtures included and excluded. So the CAR form has a detailed list, extensive list of what can be included. Well, it's actually more detailed in the RPA than it is the listing agreement. But here you can say, as an example, included items would be the washer, the dryer, the hot tub. Or excluded items would be the refrigerator, the water softener, the reverse osmosis system, etc. And you have an option to write down what's rented or leased, such as a solar power system or alarm system. So you can write in all of these things here. And I think that this example is very important because somebody like you, Michelle, would have an idea or a clue of what to write in there. But for the newer agents, they may not know to write in solar power or alarm system, that, whether it's rented or leased, or any of the items that are included or excluded. So I really like this example, so that way our new agents can take a look at it and use this as a good springboard to jump off of. And then additional terms and conditions. Here's another really good one. The SELM form. So seller exclude the listing from the multiple listings. If you have, like in your instance, where you are not coming on the market until September 11th, you would need that SELM form to say, hey, MLS, I signed the agreement today, August 1st, but we're not coming on the market till September 11th. Here's my form that says this is what the seller wants to do.
We got that signed.
And you got that signed. Very important though, you can always, you have to write in the words "or sooner" on your SELM form. So you have the date, and then right next to it, write in the words "or sooner." Because if it's a day or two sooner than that date, you're going to need another SELM form. And that's specific to SkySlope. So SkySlope, when we're reviewing and we see that there's a discrepancy on the MLS list date of the market, of when you put it active versus what the listing agreement says, we're like, hey, that doesn't match. And there is a SELM and that date doesn't match. We need another SELM correcting. The SELM has to match whatever the MLS date is. Okay.
It's good to know. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I've never been dinged for it, but
Well, that's good. But you must have been doing it right. And then seller will consider buy-side concessions / compensation. Okay, so that's the key words right there. If they're willing to accept or pay a certain amount, they're willing to do that. You have to put it in writing. That way later on they can't say, no, I never said I was willing to do that. Here is where it says that.
how about for the entity sellers? You went over that.
Entity, what? Say that again?
You right after some, it was for entity sellers, RCSDS attached.
Oh, for entity sell. Oh, yeah, RCSDS. So that is the document that lets everybody know that they are either a trust, an LLC, a corporation, whatever type of entity, a power of attorney, a court-ordered clerk, which I still think is a power of attorney, but it might be called something else. Whatever that entity is has to be called out and named. And then whoever that signer, the authorized signer is for that entity, is also on that specific form. Okay.
Got it.
And then seller will consider the buyer side concessions. If it's co-listed, the applicable AAA form or the ABA form is required. If it's a broker co-list with another office, you can use the ABA form. If the property is tenant occupied, there's a KLA form that you will need. And if the seller is a licensed agent, it needs to be disclosed. Or if the listing agent is related to the seller, it also needs to be disclosed. And then if the seller is offering a % or a flat dollar side for the buyer side compensation, that could be written in here. And or if the seller intends to include a contingency to purchase a replacement property, then that, very important, the SPRP would need to be attached as well. So it's a lot of writing in of information that we're normally used to seeing already in the printed areas of the CAR form, but this makes it very simple, clean, and easy for a homeowner who's considering selling their property to fill out or be agreeable to. When they look at this, it's like, oh yeah, I did agree to that. Oh yeah, I did agree to that. And they don't get lost in the shuffle of all the legalese of some of the other forms that are out there. Questions?
Well, what if you forgot to, I see this, actually you use the car RLA and I on page 2, whenever anybody looks at it, there's a K, it says additional terms, which is like this additional terms.
Mhm.
I just put sellers willing to offer conversation to buyer broker, but I didn't put the percent because I didn't, I don't want to, I didn't know if I could or not, but I just, once they send me that SP form, uh,
CBB?
yes, then of course we'll make it official and put it on there.
Yeah,
I'm still
I
okay.
think it's safer. I definitely think it's safer that you did it that way, especially right now, because you know what, today they might say, yeah, you can write, you can put it in, and then tomorrow it might change. So I
Well,
feel,
especially for the fines that they're giving. I mean, it's not, you know what I mean?
yeah, no, you,
Nevertheless, they're pretty stiff.
yeah, definitely. So no, I think taking the more conservative route is the safest route, definitely. And then I just wanted to remind everybody again too that we have this, it's in our mentee group chat, because this is where I grabbed it from. It's the guide, right? And it has all the links to everything you need, whether it's the seller toolkit, whether it's the buyer toolkit. So if you're representing a seller, oh, what forms do I need for, with all the new changes, you're going to click on that and it'll bring it up. If you're representing the buyer, what forms do I need? You click on that. And then free CAR forms training, there's that. And then there's always the live broker training classes you can always go to. So familiarize yourself with the FAQs. When you're representing a seller also, the other thing you want to do is you want to be able to you want to give them a net sheet. Did you give a net sheet to your
I
seller?
had Chicago title, give me 3 different net sheets for 3 different scenario prices. And he
I
was really
love it.
happy.
Okay, good. Good,
So
good.
that we can see this is what he's actually paying, for commissions if they were to split. So he knew his costs.
Okay, that's super important. Good. Glad you did that.
Mhm.
All right. Well, good. So we have 5 minutes left. What other random questions do you, this was all of the basic meat and potatoes that I wanted to run through. It's kind of a shame that nobody else was on here to ask questions. So now it's up to you to ask questions for those that aren't here.
Okay, so one thing you want to make sure that I wasn't very clear about was, and I thought was a big thing because we're going to have the people who watch the news and abide by what they see and say, and those are the unrepresented buyers. So I think with when I was watching this meeting yesterday, they were really hitting on that. There's going to be people who are going to call on the phone and say, "Hey, I like this property. I want to buy it." And great, are you represented? Do you have your agent send me an offer? No, I don't want to pay nobody. I saw on the news I don't have to pay nothing. He goes, but I want to write an offer. And that's why they put this here because they have a feeling people are going to be, doing that. They think they can, do it. But of course, we have to have a cost for that to do that. So I was very careful how I explained that to the seller today to be very aware, you know, they're going to come and call. Maybe somebody doesn't want to be represented. Um, you know, um, all I could do is fill in your address, give them the forms, and they have to do that on their own. But it's a cost to me because I have to follow through with the rest of the paperwork. It's a workload.
Well, there's that. And then but if a buyer really does not want to be represented, they all you are doing, then there's a form for that, and you would not represent them. If they don't want to be represented, but you're representing the seller, then that buyer is going into this, signing documents. All you're doing is shuffling paper over to them to sign. But you can also get that fee. You can negotiate that fee up front with the seller ahead of time. But
And I think that was really important to
that's that unrepresented, uh,
yeah, because when I first looked at it, I was like, well, what does that mean? It's there in the original contract, but I think we all just went over it.
yeah.
Especially for the newer agents when who don't know. I really never worked with a for sale by owner, so I don't know how that works, just so you know. Um,
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, no, they're fun to work with. And I mean, they can be because you can, as long
it's
as
kind of
you
like that.
educate them, they will, sometimes they'll pay. Oh, it's in here, but there is a form. Oh, click here to access. That might be it. Buyers representation, sales resources, essential forms. So we have the single property buyer broker form, and then, oh, it's going to be on the seller side. Unrepresented sellers resources. Buyer form, broker form. Well, I don't have it here in front of me like I thought I did, but I did name it earlier.
And what I also, for everybody out there, I know we only have 2 minutes left. When you're doing the included and excluded, this doesn't determine what is included. The RPA is the only agreement. So if you do something here on RLA, like I said, it doesn't go nowhere. It's nobody sees it. But make sure when they're doing the residential and when they're putting in their offer and they ask you, that's when you tell them that's what is, documented. Um,
As an example, you're representing a buyer. The buyer wants a pool table that they see in the living room or the man cave or the woman cave or the fun cave, let's say. And you are representing the seller and you just happen to be hosting and they want you to represent them. Okay, great. And everybody's agreed to that. Then you can say, oh, well, the seller does have it in the listing agreement that the pool table does not convey. That is something they plan on taking with them.
yeah.
But if the buyer is adamant and wants you to write it up for them, including it, I mean, if you're going to represent them, then you write it in, but you already know. But at the same time, depending on their offer price point, the seller might be willing to change their mind, even though it was written in there. So if they agree to the terms, then they agree to the terms.
There was another thing that popped up that I noticed because on the RLA, the long version, of course, if you're using that, the MLS has its own page. Now, it's not in the original document, and I don't know what to do with it. But there's a page on there where in the seller, it talks about seller concessions box that you can mark that's in there. I don't know why I don't have it here. That just pay attention to that page if you are using it, because there's a new box that says that it's allowed. Oh, here it is, seller authorization. It's on
You
page
put
two.
the picture up to the paper up to the screen.
Mm.
I know which one you're talking about, but wait, pull it down. Down, 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 down. So wait, yeah, keep going. Keep pulling it down. Keep pulling it down. Oh,
What's
where's
that?
the top? Where's the top of the page?
It's right here. Can you see it right here?
Point
Where's
to, oh, seller authorization. Seller authorizes broker to put in the